We're working on it. It sometimes takes a while. No, wait a minute.
Please leave your message for.
Hi, sweetie. Do you know where the microphone ended up today? Did you take it to the, you took it to the library? Oh, here it is. I see it. Okay, thank you, dear. Hi, Mimi. How you doing, dear? Yeah, you totally have to put it in here. Right, technology. Hey, isn't it?
How the grandkids doing? Is he all healed up? What's it? West. He's all healed up though. I know.
Is this layout okay for our speaker?
Yeah, that's. Yeah. Oh, nice.
I sent over CACs to set up my IT and I have to fire. Those rations. It's true. It's surprisingly, for the size he is and as much as he gets exercise, it's a It's got him.
Huh? I didn't get him. So. I didn't say it. Thank you.
At the FTL.
Yeah. Yeah, I put that on. I just, and I did like, yes, that's great. But some that were like, it's like, yeah, this side of San Andreas, 30 and a half. Icelanders there. Put that there. Like, bigger creek waters, kind of water, narrow. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's funny when you're there. Yeah, you're in the passenger side, like,
Yeah.
Alyssa, can,
I can't hear you, yes.
okay, I'm trying to get this microphone set up far enough away from the fan that, you know what I mean, we get better.
Yeah.
pickup.
Yep.
So our situation here, folks, a couple just housekeeping, because I'm just housekeeping. Misty's gonna be a little bit late. She got hung up in traffic. She thanks the porter after. She'll be here. And we should go ahead and start without her. And then we have this microphone, which so far has really helped to gather the voices into the Zoom recording, which are our minutes. What we don't have is a speaker so that you can hear either people speaking in the room or somebody speaking on the Zoom. So far tonight, it doesn't look like we'll have anybody on the Zoom. I guess they don't want to come get trained on how to be on the committee. I don't know why they would want to miss out on an opportunity. And I think I don't have any other housekeeping. Does anybody else? I'm gonna go ahead and try to quietly get out those materials I brought to the meeting with the housing folks. Because Misty was wanting to look at those reports and things, so I'm gonna have a resource area over here that you guys are gonna be welcome to take advantage of, okay? Sadly, like the copies we have of the reports and stuff, they're maybe the only physical copy that we know where it is, but the county's been trying to load them onto that CAC page. Has everybody been to the Alsea CAC page on Benton County? Okay, yeah, you might want to check it out. It's pretty amazing. The community development people put it together with us with their IT folks. It's got all kinds of stuff on it. And it's, my understanding is that it's a page that we should be contributing to as we see fit.
Anybody can put that on.
Right, and they had asked that you send it through me,
Oh.
because I know how to get in touch with the IT guy. But that doesn't matter, you could do it another way, but like if there are things that happen that we think should get posted there, or if you have old documents or something that you want to post there, you know, that's a way for us to do that.
Is that the update that we got sent to? I mean, that on that page,
The update,
the update that we got sent from Rick.
that's Rick.
Oh, you're Rick.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah,
haven't
so-
seen your name.
Hi.
And I'll stop, we could actually start the meeting now, sorry, I kind of deflected everything there.
Wants to be Gary.
Who wants to be Gary?
He willed his chores to you. Said,
Did he?
you get to do the flag salute. Stuff over in that part.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll I lost all the other ones. Okay. So, minutes approval, speaker. Items, introduce new members. Well, we don't have Misty. We've got,
She's coming.
start with, since you should make sure, we're starting. I guess we just say.
Yeah, and Randy's not here either. Anybody hear from Randy?
Can you tell me something about Randy?
Well, that was for that other thing, the equipment. We had other guests that we had the other day.
Oh,
He had to take his wife to the doctor. You supposed to want to?
could be. Okay, I'll start. We're gonna go this way and then we're gonna go this way. So I'm Scotty Jones. I have Leaping Lamb Farm up on Honey Grove Road. I raise sheep for meat market and I also host a farm stay that I've done since 2008. Of guests who come and stay on our farm when we do and relax a little bit.
I'm Zeb Olson. I've been Alsea all my life. Have a small cattle hay farm and I manage Digger Mountain Forestry, local forestry company.
I'm Tim Pearson, retired school teacher, but still work at the school as an instructional coach. Lived here 50 years. Have a small, tiny tree farm in Lobster Valley where I reside. That's good.
Yeah. Jan Hendricks, acting chairman. Up for grabs, everybody. Anyway. I've been here since '85. Live on acreage and. Long story short, now I'm a realtor. I've been for 20 years. Okay. And I've been on the planning commission and I've been on the CAC for a long time. You're.
Mimi Stout, I live next door to the library here. I moved out here in 1970. And I want to say one other thing, because I never get to say it to people, but how long I've been in Alsea. Anyway, my family, my father's family came on the first wagon train to Oregon. And my uncle walked across the line to make us Oregon instead of England.
Wow.
That's awesome.
What, walk across the line? Oh,
Well, they had to step across the line. They voted whether to go with Canada or go with
Wow.
the United States.
okay. I have no idea. More.
Yeah, and they started a wheatland area by, I don't know, north of us anyway. Anyway, I've been involved with the land use planning since I moved here. And
Sorry.
for good or bad, but I do have a lot of history that I can pass on anytime to anybody that wants to hear it. My husband and I raised wheat and oats and horses and sheep and cattle. And trees. Sure, trees just grow, I think. but- No, they don't, because I remember all the work I had to do to get the trees to grow. Okay, so that's all right. I'm very old, but I thought I'd hang on just long enough to get you guys going.
Thank you.
And I've only been here 20 years since everybody else was giving him a meeting.
You might as well introduce yourself.
No, I'm not on the committee.
It's all right.
Oh, please do.
Me Tom, and I married into the Tom family in 1976. And helped my father-in-law with some tax and land use problems, and so got educated, and since Keith Prouty died, I moved out here part-time. Yeah. If you're old Alsea, do you know Burl Tom? That was my
Yes.
father-in-law. Yeah, you knew Alsea does make any difference.
And do you reside there currently?
Yes.
Real Thompson? Oh,
Uh-huh,
nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
And was a story, I guess. Burl came up from nothing, two-room dirt floor cabin that's gone, and he ended up becoming a millionaire. And he timber mostly, and but he had the cattle fantasy really strong, and he was an expert shot. And the timber cruiser, he cruised timber for the government and for Clemens, Rex Clemens. So anyway, when the taxes got to over $1,000 a year, he sold it all off. Okay, so Ted and I went, but, and so we managed to maneuver and get 100 acres back. So it looks like a big spread from my living room window, but it's a lot smaller than it was.
I'm also not on the committee. I'm Sarah Cash. I'm on the planning commission. So I heard your presentation earlier this year with Ross Williamson.
You're gonna be bored already?
And let's see, I'm here because of the planning commission. I was asked to help liaison and get things rolling over the last few months. And I was also the one who reached out with Naomi Shadwick to the planning commission to try to get, or the community development department to try to get the CAC rolling again. Naomi's in the hospital, you guys, but she'll be home soon, we hope. And but I'm also involved with Alsea Community Action Collaborative. And we're an emerging nonprofit working on, trying to do help because we're unincorporated. It's difficult to have a point of contact with the community. So we are moving along over the last couple of years and trying to feel our way into how we could fulfill some of those roles if we did have a city government. And that doesn't mean that we're in charge. It just means, right, maybe, catalyze, liaison, right, facilitate, seek out grant funding, that kind of thing. And we've been having great progress over the last couple of years, thanks to so many wonderful outside partners like Rick Krager. And anyway, I'll stop talking and let you guys do your thing. Oh, we need minutes though. Somebody needs to do it.
Well,
Wait, did these
we
guys
don't-
get to
we
introduce
don't know.
themselves?
Yeah. That's what I mean, but I just want to toss out, somebody needs to take the minutes because Naomi's not here. And we can't count on the machine recording your voices, and everybody needs to speak up.
Bigger hand tonight.
You want these?
No.
Everybody needs to speak up with their big outside voices, so you hit this mic.
Okay, I'm Vance Croney, I'm the county attorney. I have been the county attorney since '98, so been around a while. Been here, helped get the library started and the clinic started. Worked with Mimi quite a bit back in the early 2000s. Full confession here, since I started at the county in '98, which is 26 years ago, this is the first CAC meeting I've ever been to.
Mhm.
I don't think I've ever had any CAC questions in 26 years. And part of the reason is because citizen advisory committees tend to be like fireflies. They spring up, they burn very hot, very quickly, and then the issue subsides, goes away, and CACs tend to go away. So they really have been very inactive, and honestly, they just haven't existed for probably 20 years. So kudos to you guys for getting it started. Don't be a firefly. Last for a while.
What kind of bug should we be?
Well, not a fly, because those are 48 hours?
No, don't do that.
These are roaches last for.
Roaches.
Let the record reflect, I did not say.
Crickets are very heard.
Yes, they are.
I like to think of myself as a cricket chirping Alsea. I'll see.
Decade and come back in 100 years.
Well, I'll introduce myself. I'm Rick Krager. I'm the Assistant County Administrator, and I've been on the job all of about 5 months as the Assistant County Administrator. I've been with the county almost 3 years, come October. Prior to being the Assistant County Administrator, I was the Chief Financial Officer. Just as a way of background, prior to coming to the county, I spent my entire career public service at state level for 32 years. Most of that being with Oregon Housing and Community Services, where I served as their deputy director and the chief financial officer for a portion of that. So I've had I guess a long tenure in terms of public service in a variety of different cities. The one thing I'll share, I'm a native Argonian. I've lived here my entire life. Most of my family and everyone's live in Salem. But one of the things I guess I always like to tell folks is what I appreciate about Alsea, and I really tried hard to create that communication channels. I was born and raised in a very small southern Oregon town, Myrtle Creek, Oregon, if you've ever heard of population 3,000. And I can appreciate how hard it is, how difficult it is when you're in a small community and you feel almost like you're from the outside, and I think all the communication that we need and not all the different services. So I guess I just want to say I very much appreciate that challenge, and I want to do whatever I can in the role here to help. You mentioned the community updates that we've got to start. Yeah. We'll continue to do those regularly, try to get to those to as many folks as possible to keep you informed. But I just want to continue to help and support all of you as best as we can. So thanks for coming and speaking.
For now, I guess we need to move on to orientation and bylaws overview.
All right, I guess that's me. So, like I said, I have been, really worked with CACs, so this is kind of an on the fly presentation. I will just give you, some basic public official 101 information. And that's important because when you sit down and you convene your meetings as the Alsea Citizen Advisory Committee, you become, that hat becomes your public official hat. The state of Oregon, by the laws, consider you all to be public officials when you're acting in your official capacity. So whenever you're here, you are a public official. So that's important because when you act as a public official, when you're acting within the course and scope of your duties, there are certain laws that apply to us that do not apply to Ms. Tom, for example, because she's not a member of the committee. For example, if someone sends me an email and says, hey, Vance, I'd like to see the names of the people who are on the Alsea Citizen Advisory Committee. Gotta give it to them. Public record. There are certain things you can't do. If somebody comes before you and there's an item that presents some kind of a monetary decision that you make, you can't have an involvement with them where you would benefit either pro or con. Conflict of interest laws, undue influence. So chances are, and I'll just be candid, extremely remote, you're gonna bump into something like that. But I just want you to know that there are just a different set of rules during the hour and a half year meeting as public officials. And when you step outside of a meeting, if you wear your Citizen Advisory Committee hat to an event and represent the Citizen Advisory Committee, you're acting as a public official, even though you're not in a meeting, even though they're not being recorded. If you are acting as a representative or acting on behalf of the Citizen Advisory Committee, you're a public official. So just please be mindful of how you phrase things in that capacity. It carries more weight. Believe it or not, as in this day and age, you don't think anything that the government says carries much weight. You'd be surprised. You would be surprised. So I just please ask you to be careful if you get into conversations out in the public and people know you're a member of the Citizen Advisory Committee. They could look at you different and ask, oh, is she talking to me and just because she's my friend like this? Or is she conveying this because she's a member of the Citizen Advisory Committee? So you'll have, maybe not Dr. Jekyll or Mr. Hyde, but you do have two split personalities here where people will look at you a little differently depending on the hat you're wearing. So you're a public official.
Can I ask a question when you talk about the hat you're wearing? So is that also confer what you are physically wearing and what hat you might be wearing? I mean, do we not wear lots of logos and stuff like that if we're in this meeting or?
You're just fine. You're just fine. Now, you're just fine with one huge caveat. Election law. If you are wearing a Trump 2024 shirt and you are wearing a Harris 2024 shirt when you were coming into this meeting, you cannot keep those on. You have to cover them up. Election law that's a really good question. Election law is extremely explicit and it is unforgiving. And I say unforgiving because if a public official violates election law, and that violation is reported to the Secretary of State's office, and it is found to be a violation, you are personally liable for the fine. Just because you're Citizen Advisory Committee member of Benton County doesn't mean diddly. Election law violations, those penalties come out of your pocket. So, election law, and now we know who one candidate is because he has been nominated. 19, 20, 21, something like that. The Democratic Party will nominate their presidential candidate. I say that because once we know who these candidates are, the election law begins to apply for them. So take off your Trump hat, take off in 3 weeks, take off your Harris hat or t-shirt, as it may be, when you come to a meeting. Same thing goes for local elections, local commissioner races, local representative, local senator races. Once the ballots have been, or once they file for election, the election law applies to those candidates as well. So the cardinal rule, it's not a rule of thumb, it's the cardinal rule, sit in here, no politics. Don't talk about, don't urge, don't persuade, don't debate politics, because the statute prohibits us from advocating for or against a candidate or a ballot measure. So,
I got a
no,
question.
no shows.
Listen to complaints from people about a commissioner, about some ruling that they're appealing, something. If that comes up during election season for commissioners, are we just not allowed to say their names, or, I mean, it's pertinent to the conversation?
So let's just say hypothetically, because Commissioner Oduro is not running, Commissioner Wise is running. So let's just say, for the sake of discussion, at your October 7th meeting, somebody comes in and they start complaining about something Commissioner Wise is doing, and they're complaining to you about it. Now, that's okay. You can hear the complaint. You can provide feedback on the complaint. You're not engaging in a conversation in a way that is advocating for or against her election. And that's really, I guess, the sphere of influence that we want to avoid. You can engage in a conversation with the citizen who is objecting to Commissioner Wise's stance on funding the mental health crisis center. Sure, you can engage in that. If the conversation begins to shift to, well, she shouldn't be a commissioner because of her stance on funding for the mental health crisis center, that's when you're gonna stop. Because now you're engaging in an advocacy against her candidacy.
No.
Hopefully, you've only got 2 of these meetings to go. Hopefully it doesn't pop up.
For a while.
But yeah, the cardinal rule is you can't engage in conversation that advocates for or against someone. Topics, sure. Issues that are germane to you, yes, absolutely. That don't bear on whether or not the person should or should not be elected. Yep, you can go for that. That was probably clear as mud, but I hope I'm just trying to drive home the
Talk
point.
about the issue, but not about the candidate or the person.
You can talk about an issue, yes.
Yes.
You can't talk about an issue in a manner that pushes the candidacy one way or the
Well,
other.
it's just about candidate. It's just about it. You can talk about the issue, but you can't talk about the person involved with it.
Yep, or the election. But good question, very good question. So hold your breath for 2 more meetings. Okay, so that's public officials. The other thing is, when public officials arrive late to meetings, they typically have to buy dinner for the next meeting for everybody. It was just written in this in 2020.
My sincerest apologies. The last thing I wanted to do was watching you.
Did you introduce yourself?
But you need to introduce yourselves, because we already.
Yes, yes.
We're interrupting.
Nope, that's perfect.
Yes, my name is Misty Muncie. I grew up here in Alsea and graduated from high school in 90. So I wanted to be a part of the committee to kind of pour back into the community and see it back to, you know, what its glory days were when I was growing up. And my mom and dad still live here, and I own property in town, and the old bank across from the Mercantile, my brother and I have wanted to bring back. So that's slowly happening, but I just wanted to be a part of the community again, and was asked if I'd be interested. And so that's where I am.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman, may I make a presentation? Yes, more interruptions, but yes. You have I would like to present this gift for the bank, owner of the bank, which is you and your brother. Oh. Wrapped in paper towels. It's interesting. Open it up.
Is this a piece of history?
Yeah.
Oh. So it was the library when my brother and I were growing up. We
Very
have
neat.
fond memories of it. Oh, a pencil that says Alsea State Bank, Alsea.
Very neat.
Especially me.
No, it was in some of the stuff that came with our house.
Oh, really? Oh, my goodness, Jasper's gonna be thrilled. Thank you, Mimi.
Well done.
He gave you the bank notes that came.
No, no.
Well, I'm Vance Crony, I'm the county attorney, and so I've been asked to give a presentation on all kinds of stuff. There's no real topic, so I get the freelance. So we came in, talked about public officials, of which you are one every time you meet and represent the community or the Citizen Advisory Committee. So that's public officials. The other thing I think that's important for you all to know, there's I could spend hours talking about all the things that go into being a public official, the laws, the statutes, but the vast majority of it you'll never bump into, so I'm not going to waste your time. But one thing that I do think is important for you to understand is public meeting law, because again, that is something that is germane, because every month you will hold a public meeting, which means every month those laws will apply to you and how you conduct the meeting. So first thing I want to say is public meeting laws require that the meeting be noticed in a place where folks are going to have reasonable opportunity to be notified. I notice you've got a bulletin board here. I don't know, it should be on the website as well. I don't think, honestly, for Alsea that it does any good to advertise in the Corvallis GT. I think that's a colossal waste of money.
Since they'd have to look at the paper.
Yeah.
Well, they do for $350. Although I think you can do it for about 75 now.
Yeah, what a bargain. So, but the meetings have to be noticed. When you hold your meetings, they have to be open to the public. So the public has to be able to come in, and public has to be able to hear you. And you have to be able to hear the public. That's the key piece. And I picked up on this, Sarah, when you were talking about the Zoom capabilities. Obviously, during the pandemic, we did everything via Zoom, via Teams, via go-to meetings, and the legislature quickly changed the law to allow those kind of meetings to happen. But they're really pretty stringent on making sure that if you hold a virtual meeting, it doesn't do any good to say, yep, we're virtual, if A, the people on the other end can't hear you, or B, if public has something to say, you can't hear them. So public meetings, if it's going to be virtual and there's going to be the public who's listening, public has to be able to hear, and if they have comments, you have to be able to hear them. That's a big deal. The other thing that's a significant, it's a challenge, honestly, and I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, is the meeting minutes. Every public meeting has to have a record of the meeting. Doesn't have to be verbatim. It has to contain who was in attendance, the votes, how each member voted. Obviously, if it's a unanimous vote, you don't have to say Misty voted yes, Mimi voted yes, you just pick 5-0. And if there was 5 names listed, we know who they were. And the essence of what was discussed. So that's what public meeting minutes have to be. So just be aware that every meeting you have to have the minutes taken so that you can have a record of a public meeting. Because again, in 5 years, 10 years, if somebody wants to come back and say, what the heck were they thinking? Why did they recommend to the board this particular comprehensive plan element? They can go back to the meeting minutes. They won't get all the details and the nuances, but they'll have an idea of A, what you discussed, and B, why you arrived at the decision. And that's the whole point of public meeting records, is so that the public knows both now and in the future what you were doing. Questions on public meetings?
Yes, I do. And I don't know who will be handling these things going forward, but I've been the one making the flyers and posting things on Facebook, that kind of thing. And I'm looking forward to stepping back from that if I can. But what do we need to post when, and you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And where?
Well, the bylaws. And the bylaws happen to answer that question.
Even though we've had updates to Oregon law, those are still good
Yes.
enough. Okay,
These still comply with Oregon law.
okay.
Yes. So I would point you to section 7 of Article 7, and it describes notice.
And the county's not going to be doing any notice anymore? Is that what I hear you saying?
That I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. That would be the Community Development Department. and
Okay,
I can't speak for that.
that's fine.
So,
I just knew that they talked with you about it, so I thought you might know.
well, they talked with me about the cost, and part of the problem that not only, the Board of Commissioners, but every committee, Planning Commission, Citizen Advisory Committees are facing is that we used to publish all of the notice of our meetings in the Corvallis Gazette Times.
Mhm.
Corvallis Gazette Times has just skyrocketed their prices.
Mhm.
And so we are taking a look at which committees really need to be noticed in the GT and which don't. Like I said at the outset, you guys don't.
Yeah, so I should talk to Petra a little bit more about that, if that's what she's communicated, because the one conversation I remember some of what Dan said was more about budget in relation to the committee and running it, and particularly posting for the meetings. But like Vance said, if we don't have to put this into the Gazette Times, there really is no cost associated, so the county would be able to
Mhm.
help support that. But let me get back to you.
Okay.
She's there just to make sure it's
Yeah,
not something I missed.
it's something we should sort out because it was a big issue before the election that, and so we just need to actually maybe have a clear procedure about who's doing what and where.
Can it also be posted on the website?
Absolutely.
Oh, it is posted there. It's posted on Facebook. It's posted on Emily made that new Alsea.
Right.
It's on there. Yeah, so we're posting it around a lot in Alsea, but if there's some sort of time deadline, that kind of thing, and
72 hours.
legal language that needs to be on there, like I tell people to get in touch with me if you need help accessing the meeting or the Zoom, so there's just, if there's any concern on the part, I guess a better way to say it from my position of having been doing this, if there's anything in particular that the county wants and needs us to do around meeting notice, please let us know what that is.
But to date, the discussion has been the county will do that.
Okay.
Is that?
That's what I'm saying. The county must was the initial discussion. And now I'm hearing something different, which is fine. Just let us know which
Okay.
thing we're doing and,
I'll follow up.
yeah.
with you.
Yeah.
And just to clarify, I'm not saying anything different, I'm saying, I don't know.
no, I gotcha.
Yeah, just don't.
Yeah, but told repeatedly, it was a reason for not scheduling things was that there wasn't enough notice to post, which is arguable according to what's in the bylaws either way, but yeah, so if there's not a must that we must do and not a must wear, and not a must how, but if there is a must, we should know what we need to do.
72 hours.
Well, I think the key, like Van said, is gonna be set, so if this meeting's on Monday, then you're looking at a posting on Friday.
Right,
72 hours. So the key would be getting from the chair, the agenda or the agenda that's gonna be set so that we can post it.
yeah,
So we have a little publication out here called the Alsea Valley Voice. It goes out to every patron here and it goes far and wide too, but they have a little section at the end that has just regularly scheduled meetings of like the garden club or the quilting people or all those little things. But it only comes out every other month. I don't think it would hurt to just have it in there that's.
yeah,
you
so
know,
first
first
Monday,
Monday of every month.
yeah, I put it in there this month,
It is, okay, and it.
but it's
the
wrong
library's
for
given
next
us
month.
Permission to always use it.
Everything is.
So that's sort of good enough, even though it only comes out every other month.
It's probably not, and but I say that because the statute describes what is a publication for which legal notice is proper, and every other month is not a frequency that qualifies. But I would say.
That's more than 72-hour notice.
Well, that's the problem. 72 days, that's a long time, but. The website posted here and another site in town that is a public space and you got it covered. That's the way it has been
Okay,
forever, in addition to the GT for the county.
okay,
So,
Because you have the CAC site, but then you also have, what's the new city website, the person that.
yeah, Emily put together, Emily Blake,
Yeah, it's an Alsea. Alsea website. And then of course we've got Facebook.
and I always put it on the Facebook. If you guys want to know what's going on out here, you get on that Facebook. It's fun too, because sometimes it's funny, like whose chickens are in my tomatoes? Yeah,
and Misty, you had not Misty, I'm sorry, it was Jenna, sorry, I wrote it down. Jenna, you had a question?
I already asked.
You did, okay. So any other questions on public meetings?
yes, about the speaker and the Zoom and the minutes. So I think it's safe for me to state the Community Development Department has expressed several times that they like having recorded minutes, meaning not recorded on paper, like recorded in this form. And we have been doing that and posting those on the Alsea CAC page. It really is worth a visit, guys. It's worth your time. You should go there. There are all kinds of resources, but we have this problem of having equipment. So, and understand from Pedro, there's no budget for the CACs, but we've been instructed to put in a plea for some equipment if we're gonna do the Zoom recordings. This is my own speaker, my own microphone, right? So it'd be good to have the actual equipment, my own laptop, the actual equipment needed to do those Zoom recordings of these meetings. We don't often have a lot of Zoom attendees. Sometimes we do have Zoom attendees. And that's all I'll say on that. Does anybody else want to say anything about equipment?
Wasn't in the bylaws a county official supposed to be present at every meeting?
That's partly why we Zoom, because
Yeah.
we've been saving them from having to drive out
Peter's been your.
Yeah,
via Zoom.
I thought
Yeah.
that was, well, it's been a while since I read the bylaws.
No, but that's a
I thought
good
that was
point.
Part of the,
Yeah,
why they were supposed to be in attendance, but I don't really know.
yeah, but that's a good point, because she has been attending by Zoom to save the drive. But then
That'll be important.
somebody has to host the Zoom room, like Alyssa is doing right now.
Yeah, I think so I can follow back with you on this, because of what I hear you saying, I mean, there's the Zoom piece in terms of hosting the meetings and doing the recording. That's not an issue. I think the issue is bigger is the equipment that you have to be able to effectively do this meeting in a situation where you have a Zoom presence, because you want to be able to pick up on the voices and be able to do the minutes effectively. So that's a thought I can pull back with.
Okay.
And I guess I just to expand on this point a little bit. So Zeb, you're right. Section 5 says staff for recording the proceedings of the CAC shall be provided by the county. Which, since this was originally amended in 1997 and then again in 2016, that was before the pandemic. So I'm sure that meant they would be here.
Yeah.
Now, staff can be present via Zoom. And I thought I heard you say that the minutes are the recording. So, and that's great. That eliminates the need for having to keep written minutes. But here's the kicker. Minutes of all public meetings must be kept permanently. So when all of us are dead, those minutes have to be available to our kids and our grandkids. So just know that we can't just write over files. You have to just continue to add to them if you're going to keep them as the minutes as the recordings as the minutes.
We've been jotting physical notes in case the recording fails, so that we at least have that.
We're going to have to make a decision on which ones are your official minutes.
I think that might be up to the community development department, because they were the ones expressing that, that they would like to have the recording for people to go listen to. So again, just something that needs to be sorted out in the circle of people that are going to make that decision.
Yeah, and Alyssa, can you hear me?
I can see she's.
Yes, I can.
Yeah, Alyssa, do you know if Petra and you have had a discussion in terms of the minutes and how those would be? So obviously there's a recording tonight. Was there an understanding that you were going to go back and do the minutes at all? Was that a discussion that you had?
No, that hadn't been decided. Last I heard was that the CAC was taking care of minutes.
Okay.
That's funny.
So so again, like Vance said, the recording obviously can serve as the minutes, but then we have to worry about storage and being able to make sure, obviously, text is a lot easier to, from a file standpoint, than video. And so I'm making follow-ups here. So these are answers we'll need to get back to you in terms of exactly how are we going to ensure minutes.
And
Thank you, Alyssa.
You can save those recordings just as audio, you don't have to.
No problem.
Vision.
That's right.
Linda had been posting the minutes on the Alsea CAC page. Alyssa, would you like to introduce yourself to the Alsea CAC members who are here?
Let me get my camera. Can anybody see me if I start my video?
We did earlier. I don't know now. There you are.
Hi, my name's Alyssa. I am the executive assistant in community development.
That's it.
That's it.
Well, she's replacing Linda Ray that we've been working with. So this is
Okay.
Yeah, I've been in this current position for just about a month or a month and a half, but I've been with the county for a year in September.
Thank you.
And she's doing a great job.
Yeah, she's doing a great job.
All right, so like I said, we can spend a whole lot of time on things related to your roles as public official. And I think we've sort of gone down a rabbit hole, but I'm putting the brakes on the public meeting law so that y'all just don't tune out. Because they get pretty dry. But before I do, any questions on that topic? Going once, going twice? All right. So now I'll shift to your bylaws. And if you haven't taken a look at them, I recommend that you do, just because this is your roadmap for both what your purpose is as the CAC and how you're expected to conduct your meetings and conduct your business. It really does answer most of your questions, while at the same time leaving an awful lot of latitude on how to carry out your functions. One of the things a couple of things I want to point out. First is the function. A function is in Article 2 of your bylaws, and CACs were created, oh gosh, I'm going to say way back in the early to mid 80s, when land use planning was just getting off the ground in Oregon. The statewide planning goals had a requirement that all counties and cities create their own comprehensive plan. And within that comprehensive plan, there must be a provision that allows for citizen involvement in the land use planning process. Benton County's answer to that question was to create citizen advisory committees. And citizen advisory committees are centered in the rural areas to provide an opportunity to folks who typically don't get into town for planning commission meetings or don't get into Corvallis for board of commissioner meetings, or don't often get asked about specifics or details of their community that could help inform the land use planning process. So rather than asking you all and these 6 other committees to go to Corvallis and meet with planning staff, meet with the board of commissioners, the citizen advisory committees provide an opportunity for you to meet right here and to get the input and the feedback and have conversation with people who live right here in your community, and then take that feedback and present recommendations to the board of commissioners. So typically this involves when there's either the creation, which is long since passed, or updates to the comprehensive plan, or if there are updates to the development code. The development code is the local law that governs land use in Benton County. If there are updates that affect the rural areas, that's a prime opportunity for the CACs to meet with folks on planning staff about what is being proposed, and then get your feedback, get your comments, so that your comments on, well, let's just say it's changes to the agricultural industrial zone, and you have some thoughts on that. You would put those thoughts either in a recording or in a memo or a letter, and it would go to the board of commissioners. Or, again, there's a lot of latitude on how to do this. Or you can appoint one of your committee members to be a spokesperson that goes to a board meeting and present it orally. Lots of different ways you can get your voice before both the planning commission and the board of commissioners, and even preliminarily planning staff, because let's face it, your voice is probably most important at the planning staff level, because that's where your recommendations, your suggestions get incorporated into any changes. Not that you can't have influence at the planning commission or at the board level, but you have a better chance of having meaningful input when things are being written, when amendments are being drafted. So I encourage you to, if you have issues that are brought before you that you become aware of, to work with planning staff to set an opportunity at one of your meetings to talk about those issues, so that you can both receive information on what planning staff is doing, what a project is, and how it's going to affect your community, and then provide your own impact and feedback.
I have a question. How limited is the committee and what they can suggest? We have to go, follow state law.
Well, we always have to follow state.
I mean, no, but it, with the land use goals and stuff, are you allowed to make big changes in the comprehensive land or land use law, or do you manipulate with whatever work within it, or or sort of some little modifications. In other words, can you make big changes or not? Let's say, minimum size of, forest land or something like that.
So on the comprehensive plan, when that is amended, the county has the authority to make wholesale changes. Or change 2 or 3 words. As long as those changes comply with the statewide goals.
Okay.
So, yes, so you got this umbrella with the ribs. You can change the fabric out however you want, as long as those ribs, which is the statewide goals, are all in place.
Okay.
So comprehensive plan is a topic, and I know that our community development department is beginning the process of, we've got a consultant on board to reach out to communities to solicit input on some of the areas that you see land use working here or not working, or how you think it can be streamlined, or what some obstacles may be to, achieving some of the community goals. That's an opportunity to begin the conversation both with the consultant and with planning staff. So comprehensive plan update is, CACs are tailor-made for providing input on that. Other areas that CAC input I think is important are FEMA updates. Federal Emergency Management Agency floodplain regulations, demarcation where the 100-year floodplain line is, where the 500-year boundary is. Those are, you think, yeah, okay, Vance. I mean, that is, pun intended, the driest topic in the world,
Necessarily.
but it affects insurance rates in a big way. So that affects a lot of people that you may not even think about. So FEMA. So when we go and we update our FEMA plan, a CAC is a great opportunity for you to hear about that and to provide comments and suggestions. Another is wildfire preparedness plan. You guys are surrounded by a lot of fuel. So having input on both our emergency management plans and our planning documents that relate to wildfire is critically important for your community. And people in North Albany, they don't care if you guys go to these meetings, but you do. It's your community. It's your houses, your lives, your livelihood that are at stake. So those sort of opportunities are fantastic for the CAC to get involved in. And that was, I would suggest that might be something you put as a standing item on your agenda, is to ask planning staff for updates on ongoing projects that impact the Alsea area. Because you're not always going to be aware of them. Honestly, I'm not always aware of them. So ask. And the more meetings you have where you ask that question, the more information you're going to get, because planning staff's going to come prepared. So I think that's a great way to really solidify your permanency. Because remember I said at the outset, CACs can be like fireflies. If you get involved with a lot of these projects and you're able to provide meaningful input, it makes it worthwhile.
Vance, can I ask a question?
Sure.
So to the projects, you obviously talked about very targeted areas there, but there's no limit to that, because one of the things the community is interested in learning about, a lot of different projects are going. As you well know, we have a huge water and sewer district upgrade project that is coming on.
A long time coming, right?
Yeah, a long time coming, and we have this the Safe Schools and Roads grant that's going to go in, that's going to have some road constructions. So are those type of things appropriate to, I mean, again, it's maybe going about a little outside the scope, but I assume you have the ability to bring folks in from Public Works and emergency preparedness and give a quick update. Is that appropriate?
So. Remember, the CACs were created as a way for Benton County to comply with statewide goals. The fundamental objective with statewide planning goals is to provide an opportunity for local communities to provide input on land use planning. However, how many people live out here? 300?
Oh, 750 between two valleys is my understanding.
Bring up any topic you want. Bring up any topic you want. You know what? If somebody from DLCD complains because the Alsea Community Advisory Committee is talking about sewers, we'll tell them to go take a hike.
Well, we do need. So.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm just saying,
Desperately.
hypothetically, it's supposed to be land use oriented. Practically speaking, again, if you were to bring up the idea of the water system, and you want to talk with our facilities folks and our public works, let the planning staff know that at your October 7th meeting, instead of talking politics, you want to talk water, they can be sure to have the right folks from the county here so you can hear about that project.
Yeah, and that might be another opportunity again, in terms of just more communication, you actually physically have the people that are experts. One, actually just today, we're gonna have a big EPA grant that we're gonna be looking for, working with your school district as it relates to resiliency hubs. That's a new topic, so I think those are the kind of things, and again, I don't wanna infringe the legality piece of the CAC, but if I agree with you, it's such a small community, it's a great opportunity to get in front of folks, and again, inviting the community to come here to be able to listen if they have interest. So that's something, whomever the chair is, we can talk more. I can work with Pedro, but I can also be a source of leading to those kind of connections while striving.
Yeah, no, and I think that's great. I think this really can be kind of your community table where people come to maybe not always provide feedback on the water system upgrades, but to find out about it and to learn about it, timetables, what exactly happened. Just keep in mind that your bylaws give you the authority to make recommendations to the planning commission, planning official, and the board of commissioners on land use planning activities. So if you have a recommendation on the water system, call me and we can chat. And we can shoehorn that in. But just know you can bring anything to the table that affects your community, but your output may be a little bit more limited. A question on function, on your purpose. We were just waiting for me, weren't we, Janet?
I don't know if it's appropriate or not, but when we first started to revive our dormant CAC, we were informed that there's kind of a push from the governor for increased housing. There's a push to revive CACs with maybe expanded functions to deal with more like the water and sewer for our little town. It's all expanded outside of that narrow scope you just described. So is that like really not the case, or is that pipe dreaming? What is that?
That's a complicated question, Jana. Let me just see if I can distill it to a couple of elevator points. One, the CAC is a Benton County creation, so you can amend the bylaws, and I see that's on your next steps to amend the bylaws. So you can expand the role of the CAC to include those kind of topics. The fundamental purpose will not change, and that is to provide input on and recommendations on land use planning. But that doesn't mean you can't expand it to consider housing, mental health mental health services might be going almost too far beyond what the CAC is intended to provide, but housing, I think you can make a straight-faced argument, falls within land use planning.
Can we instigate
Um,
changes in the code?
the bylaws, you mean?
No, in the code, the
And-
plan, the development code, can we instigate
You
a
cannot.
change?
You cannot. So that is one of the things that I was surprised to see when I read through the bylaws. Like I said, I've looked at them forever. Your authority only goes to making a recommendation.
Well, we recommend making a change.
You recommend anything you want. You can recommend you expand to 700 people on your committee, but yes, you can. You can make those recommendations. I would throw this out for your consideration. If you engage in an effort to examine a portion of the code that is of interest to you, and you decide you'd like to make a recommendation on it to change it, you will have much better chance of success if it has countywide applicability. If the particular portion of the code applies countywide. If you want to make a change that only affects Alsea, but it's in the whole code, you're probably not going to get much traction unless it's a significant change. Planning staff, planning commission, board of commissioners have a ton on their plate. And this is in no, please, this is not a knock on Alsea. It's the same thing for Kings Valley. It's the same thing down in Monroe. It's the same thing up Blodgett. The little things that the county looks at that don't affect a lot of people may be vitally important to you, but it probably doesn't. It's not enough of a burr under the saddle to get the board to make a change. You can find a way to get something that you want that applies countywide that's beneficial. Now you've got something to sink your teeth into. It's got to be, if it's beneficial to more than just Alsea, you've got a better chance.
We have a zone out here that's unique to Alsea. There isn't one countywide. And multi-purpose agriculture.
Nobody else has.
Nobody else has the MPA?
No, it's.
It's not even up
unique
by
to Alsea.
Greenberry?
Huh?
Not even up by Greenberry?
It was created by the Alsea. The
Huh.
original Alsea
Well,
CAC.
Okay, then you know what? That's a very good example of something that you could have influence on because it is yours.
Okay.
That's a good example. I was thinking more in terms of, countywide zones that apply, up and down and the breadth. MPA, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. But again, it's recommendations. Don't have the authority to make the changes.
Yeah,
To be.
they gave it to us, and then they took it away. The state took it away, I guess. I never know whether they're telling us the truth or not, because they said LCDC didn't like it, and they took it away. And they made it the same as EFU.
Oh,
They
okay.
didn't really take it away, they just altered it to where it's the same as EFU, except one minor. difference.
Yeah, you can't build a house.
You can't build now, and it was created so that you could build.
So I guess to kind of bring your question back. If you're going to examine the MPA zone, which applies only to the Alsea area, and you'd like to make recommendations, fire away.
Yeah.
Another point to consider, and this is something I tell staff across the county, not just planning staff. Don't come to me to revise the code to change 2 words. That's not worth anybody's time. If you want to make recommendations to change your code, make them significant. I mean, update it. Don't just change a couple words here and there. Update it. Be forward looking. That will get a higher priority for staff to make changes to.
Do petitions do anything?
petitions.
Yeah, so say we wanted to make a recommendation and we got everybody in Alsea to sign it. Does that do anything? No?
I would think if you had 200 names on a petition to change the MPA zone to allow for 2 houses on more than 2 acres. Yeah. That would have some influence.
Yeah, just get the Hendrickses and Olsons to sign and you got tons of folks
Yeah,
on that
because-
petition.
But then it shows it's not just the CAC, it's not. just
Exactly, it's
people.
not just, 3 or 4 voices, 5 voices
Okay.
who've got their own little pet project. And again, Corvallis doesn't pay attention, that we don't know what's important out here, we don't know the restrictions and how limited they are, so. A petition,
That makes
recommendations on your
sense.
zone would I think would be very welcome. And now's the time to be thinking about that, because with the comprehensive plan update. The next item in the chute is an update to the development code.
Mhm.
They follow hand in glove. So this might be a wonderful opportunity for the next couple of years for you guys to examine the MPA code and really dive into it and work with staff to update it. Because once that comprehensive plan is complete, the amendment is completed, turn the attention to changing, to updating the code to comply with the new comprehensive plan, and that's ideal time.
So how much influence does DLCD have if they look at what Benton County is doing in the?
Well, that's an interesting thing, and I suspect Petra and I might have a slightly different response. DLCD shouldn't have much influence on anything other than EFU zone and FC zone. Because those are the zones that are established by the state statutes, and counties can't mess with them. The uses are described. But our zones that we created, the MPA zone, rural residential, urban residential, general industrial, those are ours. So the county can change them, revamp them, chop them. DLCD gets notice of all of those changes, but its input on our zones doesn't carry anywhere near as much weight as it does if we want to alter the FC or the EFU zones, which we can't.
So what if Thousand Friends comes in and they file a lawsuit against the county?
Sure. I don't, honestly, let's just be real. I don't think they're gonna get involved in an MPA update. They get involved with FC, Forest Conservation. They'd be down in a heartbeat if there was a push to amend our code to change the FC. And again, we can't do that. We can't change the FC zone and the EFU zone. Good questions.
Yeah, I'm trying.
And Alyssa, just be sure to tell Petra that I'm putting many words in her mouth.
I'll just tell her to watch the recording.
Yeah, we'll teach her to go to Montana.
No kidding. Just a couple other things about your bylaws. About your membership. The way you guys are selected is downright funky. I had to do this a couple, 2-3 times to make sure I was reading what I thought I was reading. You meet to elect your members, and then that slate is sent to the board for ratification. Okay, that's kind of strange, but
How should it have been done?
well, I don't know. It's the only time I've ever seen this. For service districts, there's election, people either submit their name to the Board of Commissioners and they're appointed, or there's an election on a ballot in November or in May. Or members for most committees are appointed by the Board of Commissioners. You submit an application, the board interviews you and appoints you.
So we did an election.
I know, that's what I'm saying. This is a weird one.
Well, that's what we've always done.
I know.
We don't
You
say it's official.
you don't know no
County says
different.
it's okay, but,
So that was an unusual one for me. The other thing is,
Well, there were a few more steps there. We did tons of outreach and You know what I mean?
8 months of meetings.
Yeah, and people, yeah, so it wasn't quite that 3 steps, or a few more than that.
So the other thing that I think is unusual is, this is in Article 7, Section 4, it talks about voting. This is the only committee I've seen where it has this clause. Voting on a matter before the CAC is not required.
Saw that too.
That doesn't sound right.
And it's,
Well, we already amended.
and so,
Almost sounds like a
and so
typo.
what I'm thinking is, if you've held 2 years worth of meetings, public outreach, and you have recommendations to change your MPA zone to better match what you expect Alsea to be in the next 20 years. Those recommendations, I'm not sure how you would get to a slate of recommendations if you don't vote on them. So,
Well, these bylaws. Excuse me for interrupting you. They were written by the county commissioners for us. We didn't ever write bylaws for ourselves. Those are written by the county commissioners and given to the CACs to operate under.
and it just sort of causes me to scratch my head, Mimi, because it doesn't make much sense.
Was it a different problem they were trying to address? Like when I heard you read that, I understand what you're saying about you go through a process. Obviously, you need to figure out what recommendation you're going to make to the county. But what if somebody storms in, throwing a fit, demanding that the committee go to bat for them at the county, right? About where the flood line is on their property, right? Yeah, the blue line.
Yeah.
And the committee sits there and goes, we can't do anything to help you, right? That's not a good example, because maybe they could actually help on the flood line, but somebody comes in demanding that this committee do something for them. Maybe the committee was trying to bolster against having their arm twisted.
Sure, could be.
And that's just, because that's immediately where I went when I heard you read that aloud.
When I read this, and I read this a couple times 2 weeks ago, and then again today, I thought today, I wonder if it's because this body is really about gathering local information and maybe synthesizing it and presenting it to planning commission or the board, perhaps, or it could be a bulwark against a bully.
Well, and would rewording be helpful to say that, a recommendation can be made to the Board of Commissioners after a vote of approval by the committee?
I would just not even put the vote in there. I just put a recommendation could be made by the committee. And then
Okay.
however
it
that comes
happens.
out of the committee, again, leaves it to the discretion. And, every topic is going to be different. It may well be that you've got a chair and you talk about a topic for 5 minutes and she looks around and says, "You guys think that's a good idea?" And everybody goes, "Sure. All right, I'll send something off the board." No vote, but it's just as effective.
Mhm.
So I would personally,
Mhm.
working with the Board of Commissioners,
Mhm.
Planning Commission, a lot of other committees and the Citizen Advisory Committees, I only put you down here because you're less formal.
Mhm.
I hate you guys get bogged down. I mean, you guys are giving up an hour and a half your day. Who in the world wants to be constrained by Robert's Rules of Order? You want to come in here, you want to laugh a little bit, you want to have some fun. It can't be drudgery. And if you're worried about the niceties of a meeting, trust me, every Tuesday at 9:00.
Well, what actually has happened in the past, we must be just voting crazy, but if it was a kind of controversial issue, there was quite a few people involved in it. We took a vote of the audience and then a vote of the committee.
Just to have backup order.
And I think that's great. That to me is what a citizen advisory committee is all about.
Right.
It's not about, the 5 of you. 6 of you, I used to be able to count, but not anymore. It's about providing input on behalf of your community. If you take a vote of the audience and then vote of the committee, that's great. That's even better. So I'm not gonna go any further except for one last thing, and that is, I know that you want to revise your bylaws. So just know that all the bylaw changes come from me. So one of the things we try to do is we try to keep a lot of language consistent from committee to committee to committee. So we're not worried about different definitions of a quorum. We're not worried about the definition of meeting notices. So if you want to change much of your bylaws, go for it, but just be aware that there are going to be elements that we'll probably push back on, just because we don't want to have to juggle 21 different sets of bylaws, 21 different circumstances. It's a challenge. But you guys have a lot. I think there's a lot of updates that should happen in your bylaws that can reflect, and I can't stress this enough, not where you are, but where you want to be. I mean, you guys, and this is a golden opportunity at a golden time with the comprehensive plan, and then your comp plan change come, or the development code change coming, to really have an impact in your community. So be forward thinking when you consider your bylaws.
Vance, on the bylaws, what's the best advice for them as a committee? You'd said that obviously we have some areas that we're kind of keeping consistent. Is there particular areas of the bylaw that you would suggest that maybe are more flexible than others?
Yeah, so the things that are flexible are your function. You can add. You want to talk about housing, you can add. Function is flexible, membership is flexible, because we have some committees where state law tells us how many members we have to have, where they come from. We don't have that. You guys have 5 plus 2 alternates. You can change that. Terms of office, 3 years. One thing I will say, must have been 9 years ago, Commissioner Dixon and Commissioner Jaramillo wanted term limits for commissioners for our various boards and committees. So they changed all of our bylaws so that no committee member can be on for more than 2 consecutive terms. I'd look at that. And the reason I say that is because in your small community, trying to beat the bushes.
No, you don't tell us.
Yeah, I know. Okay, I'm preaching to the choir, sister.
Right.
I'd change that one.
Yeah.
I would change that one. Eliminate term limits.
Or forever. Oh, no.
Yeah, be careful what you ask for. So that's a couple of them. Everything else, Article 7 is all boilerplate, except for Section 4, which is the voting, which you can mess that over. Everything else is from here on out is pretty standard. Does that help?
Would it value up if we changed our election day?
Well, that's in your members, I think it talks about, yes, in Article 3, Section 1, number and selection of your membership. That's an area where you can take a hard look at how you elect your members, because in that section, Mimi, it talks about the election has to happen in the last quarter of the year, so that the new slate of members gets put in front of the Board of Commissioners after January 1st. You guys can fiddle with Section 1 as much as you want.
What I was wondering was, since we had the election now, it, half the year's already gone when we had our election. But if it would we could have it in late April or early May, Cause we get really busy out here in May. The roads would be better, the light would be better. Well, it might be better, but that's just my idea.
Yep, no, you can make that change. Now, one thing I do need to point out that these bylaws are not the Alsea Citizen Advisory Committee bylaws. These are the Citizen Advisory Committee's bylaws for all of the CACs. So,
Right, cause we don't have any for us.
and you won't. These govern all the CACs, so keep that in mind, that you can't make changes that are so unique to Alsea that they don't get enacted.
So you say that probably wouldn't go through then if we did.
You could change the, I think right now, because you're the only active CAC, you have much more of a clean slate than if there were 2 or 3 other CACs operating. So if you want to change your election date, if you want to change the way that the CAC members are appointed, maybe, you collect signatures and everybody submits them to the board and they appoint. Now's the time to do that.
Draw straws.
Draw straws, darts.
Yep.
Old people like that.
Out of curiosity, if there was another CEC that got stood up, how would that typically work? So if there was another one right now, you'd have to get consensus with all the CACs to change? Or?
So if there was another CAC, and let's just say for the sake of discussion, it's Kings Valley. You want an agreement between the two on the changes because it would directly affect the other CAC.
So probably be just staff working with both committees to say,
Yep.
okay, we've got some proposals.
Yeah, you
here.
might have the 2 chairs get together.
Whoever wins at football.
Wow, I'm just not Big Ten against everybody else. The little guy gets squashed. Oh, wait a minute, now I'm converging. Oh, okay, okay. The bigger ones, okay.
I've heard by Chris said that there's nothing better than watching seven person football. Is that?
6 man.
Six person. They say it's great watch.
We played 8-man.
I think 8-man's better.
Okay.
Mhm.
They don't miss me.
So we'll never have our own bylaws ever, not the way the system's set up now.
Right.
I do have one question for you. And you very deliberately
Just
didn't go, I think so. Deliberately didn't go down this path, but we've had some concerns about it. People have asked me because thinking I might know because of serving on the planning commission. So that new thing about not being a quorum and having accidentally having a meeting that should have been a public meeting, we're not gonna worry about that. I know, right? I brought it up.
They
Sorry.
can call it ex parte communication and ask forgiveness.
No.
They keep asking me, I don't know what to tell them.
So what Sarah has brought up is new law. And the new law is very harsh on illegal meetings. So when you notice a meeting of the CAC and you're meeting on Tuesday or Monday, August 5th. And you have 5 people appointed, 2 show up. You don't have a quorum. Can't conduct business. So those 2 people show up. And now they start talking about business that was going to be on the agenda. Okay. Well, then they go down to the market. It's Deb still, right? Right?
Yeah,
Yep.
cafe.
And run into a 3rd commissioner or a 3rd board member.
This sounds quite plausible.
I know. Shame on you for putting this on. So, and then they talk to that 3rd commissioner, or maybe just one of them runs into, and they talk about the same topics that the 2 sat here. That's called a serial meeting where.
Not
less than a
serial.
quorum-
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's a go sidetrack. That's called a serial meeting, where less than a quorum meets, but commissioner, you basically board member hop. And you carry information, carry opinions from one board member to another, so that without holding a board meeting or a committee meeting, information has been passed amongst the committee so that when you come back to your next meeting at which there's a quorum, hey, how are we gonna vote on this recommendation on for the water facility repairs? Aye. Well, wait a minute. That was about getting a $200,000 grant. You didn't have any discussion? That is a major violation of the public meeting. I give you that example because it's really important that you understand, even though you have business that you'd like to talk with another member when you bump into them, keep it at the 30,000 foot level. I'm not going to sit here and tell you you're in Alsea. You're not up in Portland. You're not up in Eugene. You're not up in Salem. I'm not going to tell you absolutely never discuss anything that you would discuss here. That's flat out unrealistic. That's just, in my mind, that's just silly. But what I will tell you is, please don't engage in those conversations that you know are creating a decision behind the scenes.
So it's kind of like insider trading.
Very much so. It's exactly what it is. It's very, very much what it is. Don't engage in detailed conversations that you go and have with other committee members.
Thank you.
It's different.
I know, I understand.
Yeah, but that's a good point. That is a very, very hot topic amongst us county councils in the state, is how we're gonna have our various committees and commissions operate, particularly in small communities where you run into people all the time. At the football games, I mean, you
Right.
can't help it, and you talk about everything, and you should. I mean, you're friends. But again, as a public official now, there are some sideboards, and for you, I'm gonna say they're not harsh sideboards, just be mindful of them. Planning commission, they're a little harder. Board of Commissioner, they're rigid. That makes sense, Sharon?
That makes so much sense. I really appreciate how you explained that. Did that make sense to the rest of you, to just have an awareness of how we interact around business things if we see each other?
So if we have conversations like that, but we have the same conversations again at the public meeting, does that make a difference? So
As
that
long as
on
you
record-
have your meaningful conversations on the record and at your public meeting, you should be fine. You should be fine.
Yeah.
I mean, but don't make the mistake of having those meaningful conversations and then at the end, look over at me and say, that is what we discussed, isn't it?
Let me call Joe.
All right, so, holy cow, I think I have blown way past the time I thought I would talk, but I blame Sarah for asking these questions.
No, you're very interesting.
Yeah.
So those-
Oh, I want you to take note of that. I was very interesting.
He doesn't get that very
No.
often, so you know, he's gonna jump on.
I have a question for
Well, we
you.
don't get much excitement out here.
Are you the only county council?
I'm the only attorney for the county, yes.
So anything that is something that is bylaws related is you. There's
Is
no
me.
assistant we can call, it's just you.
And that's why I gave you a warning. It all comes through me.
Well, I know you said that, but sometimes
But not
you is
the-
your office.
Not to put all the pressure on Vance, but he is one of the, and he's so responsive, so I know he's only one person, but. Outside of going on vacation, he is on top of everything, so there's usually not any
But that is why you sit down.
challenge to answers from.
So
Not really.
how about
Yeah.
how about the bylaws? If they change things, do they send them to you? Do they send them to Petra? Like,
Send it to Petra.
okay,
So Petra will be the
Okay.
first set of eyes on your bylaws.
Okay.
And then Petra and I will sit down with them, and then Petra will bring them back.
all right.
And if necessary, I can always come out and to one of the meetings, help you wordsmith if necessary. That sounds really dry. Having a lawyer wordsmith your bylaws at a meeting.
Even you can.
Even me.
Yeah, you can't even stand it.
Well, I wanted to ask, we've never had this before, but it looks like we're going to be allowed to have committees. And, I think there's a lot of people that are interested in helping, and I think we'll need all the help we can get if we're gonna get this town, by the town, I mean the whole community, going again. So is there any special rules? I mean, for them, it's more informal. It wouldn't be a public meeting until they brought it in front of the CAC.
So that's a really good question, Mimi. So for subcommittees, what I tell all of the boards and committees of the county, if you're gonna create a subcommittee, make sure that if you put any of your board members on the subcommittee, that the number is less than a quorum. That way they don't have to notice the meetings. Don't have to keep minutes. You know, you're not subject to the public meeting law if you don't have a quorum of the commissioner. So you got 7 here, and if you create a subcommittee to look at the water facility, and you put 4 of you on that subcommittee, now you got a problem. But if you put 2, they can meet and they're not subject to the open meeting law.
But,
Yeah.
No, right.
And if you guys are considering a subcommittee, please talk to me and I can help you with the process and the thought process of putting together how that would look, who you would want on it, and how it would operate. Because it does take a little bit of foresight, because it's really important on a subcommittee to get the right people on.
So could folks from the county be on a working committee for us? Let's just stay with the water metaphor, you know what I mean?
I would say I would highly discourage that, because you want members of your community.
Mhm.
Now, somebody from Public Works, maybe our facilities, could come to the subcommittee meeting
Okay,
and provide the expertise, which is really what you want, you know,
Right.
your expertise.
right,
And that's what we've done, like with the planning commission
Yep.
subcommittees.
Right.
You're aware of,
Yeah.
the subject matter expert that is
Right.
joining them, but they're not an actual member.
that could be really effective, you guys, I like that.
But I think one of the things you guys need to do probably next time is, do you have to decide on your chairperson?
Well, it does say on here, we're doing
That's-
position assignment.
Oh, is that what that is?
Yeah.
Well, that's how I took it. It came
You
from
know
the
what, why don't
county.
I stop talking and let's see how you guys do that?
So how do we want to do?
Did Alyssa, attached to the notes was the old list of members that were still actually never removed there at the end? And it shows the contact information. So I would assume this needs to be recreated, this document with contacts. Right? And then they'll put your names on that LCCAC page as well.
So just know your phone number and your address and your home email will not be put on the county website.
Good.
We don't give those out.
But they need this.
Right, but we need it internally.
Yeah. And probably have it. Alyssa, the thing is, do you already have everything you need from the application?
Because that's.
Well, I know, but this is Dave and Gary and Grant and people who are passed away and stuff. This is the old list.
So typically.
Yeah.
So do you have the info you need from those applications, or do you need them to send you info?
I have a good majority of the information, but I don't have everything.
Okay. Do you want to send a fresh one over maybe, and we could work on filling it in, or what do you think?
I think that I'm not sure at the moment.
Well, just leave that open then, if you want to send that over to me or, to Janet. And then we could work on it.
Yeah.
If you guys are good, that's fine too. Wait, I'll stop interrupting.
But I have another question. if we're starting to talk about the positions and that kind of thing, I'm concerned, I think about one person, and that's Janet. Because she's going to just start in again, and if we have the same date for our elections, she's gonna be going off the board, she'll be off by January. And I might be prejudiced, but I think that we really need her leadership, and I just wonder if she can stay on longer on the committee. so that she
It's
can
my
vote.
understanding you have five members.
And two
And
alternates.
one, and two alternate, and they have been voted on. And the alternates were voted on, and the board has ratified those.
Yes,
Right,
So she is, if she is amongst that group of 7,
but she has to, what I'm saying is. That they have your terms, they give us the terms, and it so happens that her term ends on January 1st.
I see, so they staggered the terms.
yeah.
And she drew the short straw.
Well,
Well, she's
it
from
went
existing.
away from years and years ago, we got the terms.
Well, they kind of signed them because
Did it?
my original one, it went out in. Can't read that very well.
So they didn't
So
start from
eight.
scratch?
No, I was appointed in 08.
So that you don't.
It expired in 2012.
2 years, 3 years. So she just.
And there's also whoever was to take Ted Davis's slot, it expires the same time as mine.
Oh,
So there's like
You
two
could
that are
probably just
due.
declare it void, you know, vacated
To
all
me, I
those
would
years
start
and then
fresh.
just start fresh and don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if this juncture, I would stick with these, and then once the people who roll off at the beginning, at the end of this year, just if they're willing, just
Vote
bring
it
back.
back.
Yep.
Okay, so we have to decide, okay, like who's gonna be secretary,
Who all has
And
that
who's
piece of
gonna be-
paper? And it-
chair, who's gonna be just the voting member.
does Janet, the only one who has an actual print off of that? I don't have,
Oh, maybe I can pass it around.
yeah.
You've seen it.
I have.
It's this page and the next, so. I put little marks where it expired. So, I don't think I have any.
So there are a couple of ways you can go about selecting your positions. You can nominate and have a second for for a person for each position. What other committees have done is somebody will nominate a slate, the chair, the vice chair, and the secretary. You still a secretary? I don't think so.
All that's in the bylaws is a chair and a vice
That's what I
chair.
thought. Okay, so
Yeah.
you can make,
This list of
you can make one motion to nominate the chair and the vice chair, and then a second, and then vote, and you'd be done with that piece. Or you can do it in 2 separate motions. Whatever works for you guys.
This shows when all those terms expire, but it doesn't really say how long each term was.
Well, that's
Are they
because
3-year
that-
terms?
they are 3-year, what does it say here? Hang on a second here. Terms of office shall be 3 years. So the way it's set up is some of you are appointed for 3 years, some for 2, and 2 of you for 1. So that not every position has to be filled each 3 years. That way you're always assured that you'll have a quorum at the very least.
Okay. Say that again. How many? So 3 years.
So,
How many?
well,
Well, the term, well,
2, isn't it 2 for 3, 2 for 2, and 1 for 1? Right?
yeah, I don't know what's on that sheet, because I don't have it. But you can, I don't know, feel free to. No, she's asking about the specific appointments. And, yeah, I don't know. Which board
there's
members.
five,
Like there's one got figured out.
so there's 5 people, and so it could be 2 for 3, 2 for 2, 1 for
I'm with Scotty. That's how I interpreted it as well.
The two. Two for two, two for two, and one for one.
You could also see it on your
What do the alternates
devices if you
do?
have your
Alternates
devices.
just Hang out,
What's that?
and what do the alternates do, just hang out?
They're supposed to attend the meeting so that they would be prepared to vote.
Would you have terms?
They're listed on here.
They're
What
listed.
their terms were.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
it.
so do alternates have terms?
I think so.
Yeah.
So then really there's 7 people.
Yeah, Grant started in 09 and he was supposed to expire in 11, so that's a 2-year term.
Yeah.
I think this has Ted as the secretary, and I thought he was an alternate.
Does anybody have any ideas for how to sort it out? Did anybody have any ideas about how to handle it?
We did talk about, we handled it by number of votes you got, but I don't know, yeah, probably has a good idea. We should just figure out how to do it now.
Just start fresh.
And I was thinking that, maybe we should give them, they were gonna, forget what I said about the voting date. If the voting date is gonna end up being in October, can't we just give them a half a term or whatever? They're just not counted.
Or you mean start then?
And then start from, well, it would be starting from January 1st. Or next year. You give them 6 months.
Okay. So, 26, 24, so Janet
Yeah, and then.
and Ted.
That we don't have anybody in his position yet.
So
But we don't know who is the new Ted.
25, 26. So what I'm gonna say is, I don't think I would worry about your election in the last quarter of this year. You just started. We're gonna call it good for this year. So don't worry about election in 2024. Because you already had it. So why, beat this horse again?
Yeah.
in 2
That
more
was our
months?
major
It's
question.
January 1st is when the years.
So forget that. You will have 2 next year to replace.
And next year, meaning January 1.
Next election.
I'm saying if you guys change the bylaws, change the date.
Okay. So it could be April. Or May.
Yeah,
Okay.
But if we can't change it, then it would be.
Then you'd be down to 5. Your alternates would slide in and take their place.
Okay. That's what I figured it would be. Otherwise we could. Go through that whole rigmarole again.
But the people could come back and serve if they would like to.
Yep.
And then just continue to roll like that, or
Right,
do
'cause
they
that's
need
the
to sort
alternate.
this out with the terms at some point?
So Janet and Ted, terms expire at the end of this year. What I would suggest you do is, if the bylaws have been changed, we deal with however you change the bylaws for next year. Bylaws have not been changed, I would recommend that in January, you guys hold an election. If Janet and Ted are willing to continue, you vote, you submit that to the board. Then they'll get a full 3-year term. It'll expire in 28. That's how we do it.
People on the list are deceased.
Well, I did say expired, didn't I?
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, just for clarity's sake.
All right, I'm sorry.
No, we can't actually ask
It
them.
was too easy. It was-
If they would like to continue to serve on the committee, we can't ask. So somebody will have to step into that spot.
Somebody has to be Ted's.
Okay, so those 2 that
Ted's gone.
Ted's gone,
We
okay,
need
so
Ted's
you
gone,
just need Ted's, but actually, that's what your alternates for. One of your alternates will slide into Ted's spot.
Oh,
Okay, yeah, well, there you go.
then we'll have 6. Oh, because we'll lose
You
2.
lose one of the alternates.
It's not making sense.
But-
We just elected 3 brand new members. One of
And
wants
2
to take
alternates.
Ted's place, one wants to take
Grant
Grant Labels.
branch, well, he was an alternate.
Oh, so
So say I
Ted,
took
Gary and Deb.
Gary
and I
and
took-
Deb, those
Ted, Gary and
three
Deb, yeah.
no longer on the CAC.
Mhm.
So those 3 terms have to be filled by the
One
voting
of us.
5,
Mhm.
the newbies,
Mhm. The freshman.
and then,
And I filled.
so we
the
can
alternate
decide
spots.
who's getting the number of years.
They did not.
Then we can decide who's chairman, who's vice chair. Okay, does that make sense? Do we have to vote on that? Okay, somebody has to
So
make that.
somebody has
move.
to make a nomination.
Did anybody understand what I said?
Say it again.
Say it again.
Try it in English.
Yeah.
Well, you can make the,
I can just box around.
now you can make the nomination, then it has, somebody's gonna second it. and then
Oh,
we'll
I
have to vote.
can make my own. Okay, I move that we decide who's filling which year terms first. Once we've decided that, we'll decide who's taking chairman and vice chairman. Do we have other officers to decide?
I think. we
So why don't you
should
take
have-
that one first?
Yeah.
Take that motion
Somebody
first.
has to second.
Okay,
I'll second it.
noted that. Seconded.
Can I just check, Alyssa, are you getting everything okay? I want to just make sure people are, because this is important to make sure we have record wise, is that coming through okay?
I can hear, but I'm not familiar enough with voices to know who made the motion and who seconded.
Janet and Zeb. Maybe we could give our names and speak loudly for sure Alyssa can hear us.
Yeah, the volume has been great so far.
Good.
It's just that I'm not familiar with voices yet.
Well, this little mic is
Okay,
awesome.
so then all in favor?
It's cheap.
Are you saying aye? Okay,
All opposed? Melissa, so is a unanimous.
Okay.
okay, so we've got 2 that need to take a 3-year term. We've got 2 that need to take a 2-year term and 1 for a 1 year. How do we want to? Do we want to volunteer for terms? Do we want to?
Can I make just one suggestion before you get going?
Absolutely.
An alternate might be a good one for that 1-year term.
An alternate. I was hoping.
Well, that leaves you with 5 people. Do we need to have 7 people total assigned to slots, or we just, can we know
Alternates have to be,
terms?
that's what they've done before, were on your list, weren't they? The alternates were had terms.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
That's 3, 5. No, that's only for 5, we're voting 5 members. I did not address the alternate.
No. I suppose you could do it in the reverse. You could appoint. Was anybody designated as an alternate?
Yeah, and Randy.
Okay,
And Randy is not
and
here.
Randy's not here. So you could go. Well, why don't you make Randy the 1 year? He's not here, that's what happens. And that way, when you've got, now when you're going to fill the others' positions, the terms, you know, you're gonna have everybody there for at least 2 years, right? Because one of the person is dead.
Yeah. 2 of the people are dead. Grant and Ted are.
And 2 people stepped down.
So I guess I'm not clear, how many live bodies are we talking about
Yeah,
here?
we only figured out for 5. We didn't figure out for 7. When
Yeah.
we did the 2, 2 and 1.
Yeah.
That's only for 5 people.
Yeah.
So if we had to do it for 7, it's gonna be more like 3, 2 and 2, or 3, 3 and. 1.
Well, I think it
No,
was,
3, 2.
I saw it someplace, I don't know, that the alternates got a term of 1 and 2 years. And then everybody else got,
5 board members
What?
and 2 alternates.
I mean, live.
Oh, I mean, live, we have 7
Seven, there's
currently that are
7.
live.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my rationale for suggesting you appoint your alternates to your 1-year term is then everybody who's here, who is an appointed committee member will be here for at least 2 years. So that chair will have at least a full year term.
So then it's three,
Vice chair.
2, so 3 of you are for 3 years. 2 of you are for 2 years, and the 2 alternates are for 1.
Yes. And then alternate can be appointed for a 3-year term next year.
Okay.
And then you guys have to draw straws.
So you guys have to play thumbsies or something.
You gotta draw straws in, and they gotta have little pieces of paper, and then if you pick it, it shows that you're the chair, or you're the vice chair.
This
And
is
you got
why
3
it's
years.
so bad that we don't have a tab on.
For me personally, makes no difference, as long as I don't have to be chair or vice chair.
Well, there you go.
Okay, you're down to 4 choices.
This boy knows how to negotiate right there.
Gracious of you, Zeb, to help narrow the process.
Somebody's gotta do it.
So does that mean you're taking 3 years?
I don't care as long as I only don't have to do the hard stuff.
You're young.
You're on to life.
Young.
I don't care, really, I just, I'm here to help.
Do we want to just volunteer for terms this way and then decide officers? I mean,
Sure.
what do you want to volunteer for? She should get first choice.
I'm happy where I am, but I'm also happy to,
Well, that's right, you're solid. Where are you at?
yeah, I'm happy to take less also if somebody wants to.
What does it say up there? Is
How many years?
Father time is like living my chair.
So
I have 3 years.
You have 3 years.
I mean, I think that's what I've done.
Well, there's something on there that says when her term expires.
2026. 12/21/26.
Well, then do I have less than that? The less is fine.
So, okay.
2.
So she'd be a 2-year.
So we have 1 3-year, 1 2-year. So
It's a
2
2-year.
more, you need to be 3, and 1 more needs to be 2.
I easy, whatever.
I've always heard that.
You always-
What happened when
I'm sorry, I like to laugh.
Good for you.
Let's see what term would you like.
Oh, goodness.
Three, you're on that bank building, that thing is good.
Okay, I'll be great. Okay. Yeah. That leaves you, Tim,
What does it leave me with?
a choice of a 3 or
3 or 2.
A 3 or 2?
What do you want?
Yeah.
Well, you can have
She-
mine, so you.
She's like, she wants neither and both is the problem, right, Janet?
I like to be the boss, but I don't want to have to be obligated.
That's why I volunteer.
There you go. No, I will take what's left of me. I do not care.
You choose.
Okay, I'm taking 2.
Okay.
That leaves 2 and 3. You got more time on your clock.
Mhm.
Tim.
Okay, and I'm gonna have to be redone. Anyway.
Now do we need
No,
to,
I know.
No, you don't.
No, I
No,
know.
you don't.
No,
All
I
right,
know, we're good.
all right.
so do they need to vote on that?
I would suggest you do vote on that. That way you got a record. And so Alyssa, you had to take careful note because this will change the roster. And the roster
Okay.
let their accurate terms.
I just need everyone to go around or however you're gonna do it, but I need names for which terms.
Perfect.
I have 3 years are Zeb, Misty, and Tim.
Okay.
2 years are Mimi and Janet,
Okay,
and the 1 years are Randy and Scotty, who are also the alternates.
okay.
Did I get it right?
You got it.
Okay.
I move that we vote on what Sarah just said.
What she said.
I second it.
So Misty seconded it. Janet made the motion.
Janet made the motion, Misty seconded. Got it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
But unanimous.
You know, I don't know about you guys, but it sounds to me like there's a chairperson to be nominated right now.
Right now.
Yeah, I'll nominate Janet for the chairperson.
Second.
Oh, man.
You didn't introduce that.
All in
Mimi
favor?
and Tim, Janet as chair.
Aye.
Anybody objecting?
Okay,
I just want to
Alyssa,
make sure I heard Mimi made a motion to make Janet chair
Mhm.
and I missed who seconded
Tim.
him. And the vote,
unanimous.
Unanimous.
okay,
Now we need to nominate a vice chair, correct?
Mhm.
Yeah, you don't have to do.
Anybody else want to do it?
It's
It's the kind of vice chair where you do nothing, because I'm gonna lean on you.
well, and there's some things that I probably should talk here again. I'm sorry to interrupt. When Mimi was chair, I did a lot of the function because of, vision and online and all these different things. So I've been performing tasks that would normally be performed by the chair. And there are some things that do have to happen every month, like you have to sort out about the agenda and you have to make sure that the notice is happening and all those different things. So in the absence of a chair, for whatever reason, God forbid, vice chair would need to be able to step in and take care of the things that Mimi and I were doing as partners, and then Janet has started to take them on. Yeah,
I'm not as proficient as Mimi.
well, and that's all the thing too, like we could figure out who's doing what, you know what I'm saying, right? So it's easy for me to knock out a flyer, might be harder for somebody else, that kind of thing.
These guys are young. They're all young. They'll be fine.
Yeah.
I talk to trees all day, I don't know.
So one of you three has to raise.
So it requires some
Do you want?
technological facility, right? For one thing, that position, and some time outside the meeting space to take care of things.
All
Yeah,
right, I'll try to
And
pull
also
my weight.
ultimately to run this.
that would be
You
great.
need to know how to do Zoom. Isn't that?
You need to be technologically literate, which I am not,
Right.
so.
Okay, so it gets it down to.
Missy.
You teach me girl and all.
I was just, you got to.
Wait. Our vice chair being on.
Well, and we've been using my well, no, it'll be okay because we use the counties. Never mind. Sorry, go ahead.
I nominate Misty as vice chair.
That was Janet.
And Zeb will second it. I second it.
got it.
And I will ask for the vote. All in favor?
Hi.
Aye. All opposed?
What I liked about that, Misty, was like that old game of musical chairs, and you didn't sit down fast enough.
Yeah.
Okay, okay,
All right. And I think that takes care of officers, right?
Yes.
Well, did we do a secretary?
There is no.
There's no-
secretary.
Bylaws don't call for a
No, they don't.
secretary, even though I always have.
But we need somebody, you said, didn't you say we had to have somebody to take written notes?
That will be, staff will provide that either via Zoom or written notes, because it does say, staff for recording the proceedings of the CAC shall be provided by the county.
Oh, okay.
So she's just.
Right.
Wow, that's cool.
I'm throwing in my laptop. Right.
I have, Guess this is done.
This part is done, yeah.
I have a question. Just silly, it's a request, actually. And maybe it's more for Alyssa than you guys, but when I was on the planning commission, we were provided notebooks that had the code written. And to my knowledge, we've never had that at the CAC committee. So I'm wondering if that's something the county could do for us, or if we, I mean, I can print it out my own. I don't want to print it out for everybody.
But let me ask you a question. With the whole code, or do you want the MPA?
When I did it for myself, I just did the zones that are here. But there are other pertinent parts of the code that aren't part of each zone, you know?
Sure,
And I
like
wasn't even
chapter
sure
50,
which
right.
one that I should do. So I just thought I would ask if that's something we could have, or just one copy, and I would make copies for everybody.
Sure, you know what, we will obligate Pedro for that. Got that, Alyssa? We're obligating Pedro for that.
The
Cop-
entire code, or is there a discussion about where or what sections?
How big is the entire code?
Our code's about an inch thick, double sided.
Yeah, no, we don't need.
And it's honestly, it's got a bunch of sections that you'll never look, it's got a bunch of sections, I don't know.
We need forest conservation.
And so, you know what?
MPA.
As a
rural
chair,
industrial.
I would suggest you put that on for your next agenda,
Figure out which section.
which sections you want.
All right.
Okay.
Look at this, we're already building the agenda for next month.
Right?
And it's all in the process of getting updated too, right?
Yeah, the code not as quickly, the comp plan, yes.
So I have questions about like the research for the comp plan. How do we ask for that?
That's a good question, and I'm gonna fob that question off to Pedro.
Because I have a lot of questions that I can't necessarily answer. Because of, you know. The maps, computer stuff that the county already has. So.
Yeah, we have to ask.
Yeah, and Alyssa, if you can make note of this, what we can do is we can have a running list of the questions when Patriot gets back, and we can do some follow-up.
Okay.
Does that sound like a plan there, Alyssa? I'll just make sure you're capturing.
Yep,
That's-
I
that's
am.
Another task I've been feeling that probably should be the chair's task is that Petra has a list of to-do items that she generates after the meeting, and then we use that to follow up. So there's another piece for the chair and the vice chair to take care of there.
Sarah, I have a question for you. So as far as the Zoom goes, is this the link that
So the county links,
sent to us and then we just,
and then this is my laptop and CAC's microphone.
okay.
So we'll just need to figure out the equipment piece for you going forward for the Zoom meeting. So
Does
that's
library
a follow-up item.
Is the library?
They don't,
Okay.
which is a bummer. They should.
Odd.
We need to give them a grant for that.
Yeah.
What I was gonna add, in the event that I couldn't be here physically,
Mhm.
Oh,
could I let Scotty be the? my
And that's
backup to run?
exactly what the alternative is for.
Well, there you go.
Yep, it's,
I don't have a microphone, but.
We'll run across the street with theirs.
Yeah.
Get one for the
I do have a
community
microphone,
room. We
actually.
should
I
get
do
some
have-
equipment for the community room. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
all right.
Okay, I guess our next steps are bylaw review, and we already kind of just did that, but we haven't changed anything yet. And Benton County Planning Commission visit, that's coming next.
I wish I could tell you more. We haven't met since June or May or something, maybe the very beginning of June. And they talked at the time about wanting to come out in regards to the comprehensive plan rewrite. And apparently Eddie had promised them spaghetti dinner. So I mean, and they were really excited about the spaghetti dinner.
Who's making this?
I know. Well, Naomi makes these big, huge pots of spaghetti for meetings. She has this big, huge pot from when she was with the tribe. But anyway, so that's all I can tell you. They haven't said when they're coming out. They haven't said what what I said, give us heads up, we're a volunteer,
That's a maybe.
yeah, so we need to know what you want from us when you come out.
Be nice if they came and the weather was nice. But it
Yeah.
started raining.
I would be tickled if they came when I was on the commission. I would say the majority had never been to Alsea.
Right,
They had never been to Summit.
right,
They had not seen the county,
right,
the people that are truly affected by the land use laws. They clueless.
right.
I think that should be net.
They could go on my auto tour. I have an auto tour. Seriously, I do. I take people on auto tours.
I know the planning commission, they were eager to get that scheduled because they had done Monroe. We went out there and that was well attended. There was lots of folks that had come. So as Sarah said, though, they haven't met again. And so probably the next meeting that we pull them together, they'll get that scheduled because that's part of the whole comp plan.
Right,
Update piece and the engagement that they want to do.
right. And they wanted to talk to Monroe about housing needs in the county. And it was interesting because the meeting attendees ended up interpreting that in that as that Corvallis wanted Monroe to take on people that were in, you know what I mean? And that wasn't what the planning commission was there to do. So it can be interesting how these things can kind of get tangled up. Right? It was more of a figuring out partnerships about trying to support housing development in Monroe, but not so that people from Corvallis could move out necessarily, right? Right? Interesting, huh?
Don't think anybody has kids.
Anybody that has kids, right? We have only one requirement. You gotta bring kids for the school. Please, you gotta bring kids. Yeah, well, we've made all the young people move away. Well, the baby makers,
We lose our school, we might as well.
the baby makers have to move away. So Rick, the community update you sent out today, the more I read about the water thing, the more confused I get. What's happening with the water project? Do you know?
So we have contract put in place.
Yeah.
In relation to, so now we're just going through specification negotiation with the contractor in terms of fixes at this point. So
Uh-huh.
still-
I don't know if they're driving by my house to fix it. They said they'd be bringing every equipment in.
Yeah. But do we know what they're going to actually, no, we don't know what they're gonna do.
No,
We're not even there yet. That's okay.
Well, how can they be doing it when you don't know?
I'm not sure what you're referring to.
They're in the making plans point of the project.
Well, and they told me they were gonna redo the house down by the river. And that they'd be bringing heavy equipment in, and they were out and marked the highway where it was to turn in. So I figured they're getting pretty close. It's too bad that they didn't investigate more, because I know there's a lot of water up on the hill. And they're going down by the river and bringing it up. I don't know. I don't know why they built the sewer plant above the town. I can't figure out the whole water system in public works. I live right next to it. That's why I'm interested in.
And Mimi's talking about gravity fed versus pumping the water to our community.
Yeah, and I know that the water that
tanks.
comes off the hill then goes into the storm drains, so then they have to run it through their sewage plant, I think, to get rid of it. But yet, it seems like maybe it really needs to be captured up there someplace.
Mhm.
That whole hillside is like springs.
That's interesting that you say that, because there is, like, even above the bank, there's this water that comes out, and I mean, it's when it's the wet season, which we have a lot. And there's literally like a little river, trickle coming down to the roadway.
Yeah, I'm not aware that there is a complete rebuild of the system. I thought it was.
So yeah, and so these are all obviously things that would be good fixes in terms of if you were doing it all over. This scope of this project is just updating
What's
I mean, worn out. I mean, we're talking, some of this stuff is really bad shape in terms of where it's at. So if we don't replace it, there is going to be some kind of major issue. So that's been the scope. There's just unfortunately just not enough money to be able to do a whole type of rebuild. Now, that's a conversation I know you brought up, Sarah, about expansion and where
Storage.
where are we able to look at those, but we're gonna have to obviously identify the resources for that kind of work. Because the project itself is roughly what, about 2.7 between federal and state dollars that we have, and that's of course not just Alsea, that's Alpine, that's all the service districts. So, and it's the form of, it's coming and responding to the actual assessment that was done on what was aging and what was the point of potentially breaking.
So the work will be done on the water, not the sewer for this round.
So right now, and this is a little bit of a staging issue we have is, we have the dollars to do, well, we have the dollars to do water and sewer, but we got the federal money, which was a bonus, another 1.1, but it had to be used specifically for sewer. So we're playing a little bit of a game here in terms of how do we get to that point of being able to do as much as possible, because if I was to put everything into sewer right now, then it's all gone. So we're playing a little bit of a shell game to make sure that we get everything done that was in scope.
And then the ODOT,
Yeah.
we go ahead, Miss. No, you go, Misty, you do it.
Well, no, I was gonna say, well, the safe travel, safe, sidewalks to school, that sort of thing, you know, I've spoken. With Owen Malera about that and in times past, but I was just curious because, we were chatting on my drive down here and she was saying that,
We're getting mixed messages.
that it had gone back to the drawing board. Do you know anything about that?
I know that there was an issue here in this last update in terms of that there were, I don't know the specifics to it, but yeah, I think that there was, I think there was some requirements that had come in, if I'm remembering correctly, that.
Like real recently or a while
Just
back?
recently.
Okay, so there is a new thing.
Because we were on
Sounds like-
track.
Yeah, you were ready to roll.
Yeah, we were
Yeah,
ready to go, and then
right,
issues come up, and
Okay.
that's what you find with a lot of these
right.
ODOT rules.
Sure. It's just that, well, we probably heard from him at two different times, right? So it was literally two different answers and they were both true at the time that they were given, right? So, and then the emergency generator issue, and you're needing to fix the tank on the generator, get a new tank. But so I have a question and I continue to have it. So we have this closet down at the school that Keenan built to keep the generator in, this little room down by the weight room to keep the generator in. And the communication from the county keeps being, well, if you guys need the generator, we'll bring it over. So what is the plan for getting the generator over here if we have a major disaster?
So that was part of the update that we gave you. If there is a situation that occurs, we are prepared to immediately get a generator out here, since you don't have this new one in place.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, we're on call, ready to bring it over. We're not gonna bring by helicopter, but we're obviously gonna drive up here.
Well, what if the
Well,
road's
and if it's
closed?
an earthquake, then the road's gone.
Yeah,
I mean, that's.
Yeah.
been-
Well, again, so
Stop before.
the issue is we thought we had this fixed and the whole generator. that was brand new, we
right.
had to bring in. So we're moving as quickly as we can to get that one repaired so we can get it up here.
and so will it then reside in this community?
Yes.
Yay.
Yeah.
That's
So
wonderful.
once the permanent one's here, and again, we thought we had it done, and then we went to start it up and. It didn't.
Unbelievable. The guys must have just thrown their hands up in the air. I can imagine that day. Right?
But yeah, once that's in place, then we don't have an issue. It's just this timetable when the other one went on the fritz, and then it took, the supply chain took so long to get it ordered. I mean, I think it was 6-7 months.
Right. Right. I don't have any more
I'll
questions.
see what I
Yeah.
can find on the safe schools. Cause that one came in late as an update through my assistant, so let me make sure I find out specifically if there's any.
Here's what will happen. They'll just show up someday and do it. Yeah.
Like the sidewalk?
Like the sidewalk.
Yeah.
There will be no rhyme or reason.
Have you seen the sidewalk? Have you?
I've been a long time.
So in front of the cafe, there's a 2-foot sidewalk. You can't even open the door.
That's why you're supposed to drive truck.
Well, it's
Oh, boy.
Yeah,
Oh, boy.
because they just
no, it doesn't-
showed up and did it.
no warning.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, our town had these sidewalks and the cafe was out.
Yeah, the owner of the cafe wasn't laughing. It is a funny story, but yeah. Darn funny.
So are we? Huh?
Don't be me.
Yeah, who wants to move that we adjourn then?
I'll move to adjourn.
All there? I'm getting adjourned. All right.
Second the motion. Misty seconded it.
Unanimous.
Well done, you guys. Well done today.
Thank you.
Very well done.
Thanks for coming out.
Listen, you didn't have anything?
I like it.
Just wanted to make sure I heard correctly. Zeb made the motion to adjourn and Misty seconded.
Yes.
Okay, got it. I'll send out an email to request your guys' information tomorrow.
So she's gonna follow up on the contact with that we talked about earlier, sure. Thanks, Alyssa, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Coming out here.
Yes. I forget how much fun it is out here. It's always a lot of fun.